Have you ever picked up a hitchhiker only to realize they might be more trouble than you bargained for? Well, today's story takes that classic tale and turns it upside down. Let's jump in. Welcome back to my channel. Today's story is a scary hitchhiking story from a viewer, and it's called The Vanishing Hitchhiker. The story begins with our narrator driving down a lonely highway when suddenly he sees a girl standing on the side of the road who looks like she needs a ride. He slows down and offers her a ride. But as soon as she gets in the car, he notices some disturbing things. Listen as he tells his tale. Location: Highway 64 near Flagstaff, Arizona. It was late on a Friday night, probably around midnight. I was heading east on Highway 64, just past Flagstaff, Arizona. My girlfriend and I were high school sweethearts, and we were just finishing up our junior year. Our summer vacation had begun. We wanted to spend a few days hiking in northern Arizona, so off we went. But by the time we got there, all of the campsites were full. So we decided to head home and try again next week. We got in the car and began the trek back to Phoenix. The drive from Flagstaff to Phoenix is about 2.5 hours without traffic. But being that it was well past midnight on a Friday, traffic wasn't much of a concern. The desert started to change. The moon dipped behind the clouds, and the headlights from my car became the only thing cutting through the pitch-black night. Out here, the road feels endless. Just dark asphalt, a few wooden mile markers, and the occasional shape of a saguaro cactus standing like a silent figure in the distance. I was driving with my high beams on, trying to pierce the darkness when I first saw her. She was standing on the shoulder of the road, waving her thumb out to the east like she was hitching a ride. She was backlit by my headlights, so I couldn't make out any features. At first glance, she looked like a shadow or a cutout of a person. But as I drew closer, the human details started to take form. I was now right upon her. I saw that she was young, maybe mid-20s, wearing a pale blue sundress, a little too fancy to be out here in the middle of nowhere. Her hair was long and dark, slightly messy like she'd been walking for hours. She stood so still it was almost unsettling. I don't know how else to describe it. It was as though she were frozen in place. I knew I should keep going. I told myself she was crazy and she would find some other poor sap to pick her up, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the image of her standing out there all alone in the darkness, or maybe it was my own stupidity. But I slowed down and rolled my window down a few inches. "You need a ride?" I asked cautiously, keeping my hand close to the door lock. I waited. She didn't respond right away, but when she finally did, her voice was soft, gentle even. "Yes, please. Thank you." She didn't say a word as I drove past her, slowing down and rolling my window down a few more inches. "Get in," I said. I watched her reaction, waiting for her to make a sudden move or say something crazy, but she just nodded. She didn't answer right away, just gave a slow nod. I told myself that it was just her being shy, and I unlocked the door. She climbed in without a word and closed the door behind her. The interior light flicked on for a split second, and I saw that her dress had faint stains on it. I told myself it was just dirt. "Where you headed?" I asked, forcing myself to sound casual, but my mind was racing, wondering why she was out here and why she was hitchhiking in such a dangerous place. "Just a few miles up," she said softly. I glanced at her, then quickly returned my focus to the road. Her voice was calm. Too calm. I thought about turning on the radio, but I didn't want to. I wanted to hear anything she said. There was something about her demeanor that both intrigued me and unsettled me. I gripped the steering wheel tighter. Okay," I said. We drove in silence for about a mile. It was a comfortable silence, though, not filled with tension like most silences are when you're picking up a hitchhiker. I noticed that she kept glancing at the dashboard like she was reading something. I tried to ignore it, telling myself she was just tired and disoriented. Finally, I asked, "What happened to your car? Break down?" She turned to me slowly and said, "I didn't have one." Something about the way she said it made my stomach tighten. I knew I should press her for an explanation, but I didn't. I didn't want to break the fragile quiet that had fallen between us. Then she pointed up ahead. Right there, by the bend. I slowed down and pulled over where she indicated. She opened the door, stepped out, and stood there for a moment watching me. "You're a good man for stopping," she said softly. Then she added something that made my blood run cold. "Not everyone makes it past this stretch." I stayed in the car, headlights pointing into the empty road. I must have sat there for a full minute, debating whether I should get out and walk over to where she was standing. I finally managed to utter, "Wait, what do you mean, not everyone?" She smiled sadly. "Oh, no one." Then she turned and disappeared down the embankment toward the dark desert below. I backed up, heart pounding, and got in my car. I drove the rest of the way with my eyes glued to the road, not once looking at the rearview mirror. I was halfway to Phoenix before I dared to glance over my shoulder. That was another thing that freaked me out. She didn't even look at me. I can't emphasize enough how weird that is. Normally, even if a hitchhiker seems shady, they will at least give you the courtesy of eye contact. When she didn't look at me, it felt like I had picked up a ghost, like I was transporting the dead. By the time I arrived home, I was shaken. I told myself it was just a stranger. Why would I let some random hitchhiker rattle me so badly? I tried to shake off the experience, but sleep wouldn't come that night. I tossed and turned in bed, replaying the events in my mind over and over. The next morning, I got up early and drove back to the spot where I dropped her off. I parked the car and got out. I walked along the shoulder of the road looking for the spot where she had disappeared into the desert, but I found nothing. It was as though she had vanished into thin air. That was when I saw it. A small roadside cross, nearly buried in the sand, marked with faded writing. "In loving memory, 1998. I backed up, heart pounding, and got in my car. I drove the rest of the way home, my mind in turmoil. Later that day, I stopped at a diner in Flagstaff. I asked the waitress if she'd ever heard of an accident near the old wooden bridge on Highway 64. She paused, her hand hovering over the notepad. "Yeah, girl died out there in '98. Hitchhiking. They never caught who did it." I thanked her, paid my bill, and went back to my car. I was about to start the engine when I noticed something on the passenger seat. A small blue ribbon, frayed at the edges, just like the one tied to the roadside cross. And the seatbelt was buckled. So let's talk about this story, shall we? I gotta admit, hitchhiking always seemed a bit dicey to me. I mean, it's not like I've never seen those warnings about it on TV. You know, only pick up women if you have a shotgun in the back seat or something like that. So when I found out my mom used to hitchhike when she was younger, yeah, it definitely raised an eyebrow. My question is, have any of you ever picked up a hitchhiker? If so, any interesting stories you want to share? Drop them in the comments. Also, this story gives me some serious Jeepers Creepers vibes. What about you? You think this hitchhiker was a creeper or something more sinister? Let me know in the comments. And hey, if you're digging our content, show us some love by hitting that thumbs up button. We'll catch you in the next one.